Namaste. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome back. This is part 3 of our walk through 3 of the decks by James R. Eads. And today we're going to begin with the Ace of Chalices, the Ace of Lotuses, and hopefully we will get right through to the 78th card. Okay, if you haven't seen the previous 2 videos, they are linked in the description box below where we looked at the previous cards. Okay, so let's dive in and just have this is not intended to be a deep dive. This is a comparison of the 3 decks, some of my reflections on the cards, the ones that I worked with, not worked with, just some thoughts on the decks themselves. I do have a larger version of the Cosma Visions and the Light Visions, and it's interesting that I purchased the larger version of Light Visions with the latest Kickstarter, and I'm really actually, because of the flexibility of the coloring of the deck to go with other decks. That's why I purchased this one, but I'm really intrigued with the color of the art in the Prisma Visions. It's really, really beautiful. Yeah, so welcome to those of you that are in the background, and hello again to Tamian. Thanks for joining me. Ace of Water. So this is such an important card for me in the tarot. It is the, I want to say, the openness, the willingness to stepping into a very important part of your journey. When the water rises, of course, the emotions do, but I always feel so much more with this card. It takes me to some earlier versions of the deck where this was the Holy Grail card. And I often ask myself this question when this card comes up, what is my Holy Grail? Or presently, where am I on this walk? Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for saying that. And hello. I see Tina's here as well too. Mary Beth. Lurk away. Enjoy while you're at work, probably with your earbuds in. Okay, so yeah, look in the background of the Prisma Visions. I'm also looking at my book. It's interesting because the book is a little bit closer up. If you don't have the big Visions book, it really is beautiful. I'm not going to change the camera right now, but you can see. So look at the bottom. We're quite close up to the base. And then look at the cropping. So you can see the moon on the left, right? And so you see more of the artwork on the card than you do in the book itself, but you do get a really large picture. Right? A really large picture. I actually kind of like that you can see the moon in the Prisma Visions. There's something about that. There's a lot of mystery, I think, in Light Visions that leaves it open to interpretation. One of my favorite things about these decks are the lines of energy, the flow of energy. And I wonder, I hadn't thought about this before, but if you were to lay out the cards, say you were doing a 9 cards, so they were all touching each other, and then follow the lines of energy. Something like you would do in, I've put so many decks away because I'm clearing up for company, but the Aurum Lenormand with the gold lines running through. Anyway, I really love the lines of energy in this one. Okay. It's almost as if in Cosma Visions, we are looking into the distance of what we're seeing close up in the Prisma and Light Visions. These are gorgeous cards, really gorgeous. I think James has done something in these decks. And I have to say, I had this impression, the same when I was looking at Lily White and Lily Black, that these were identical decks, but they're not. They're not. I have not done watched any videos where talking about his process of creating the decks, but it's becoming more and more apparent about the subtle differences between Prisma Visions and Light Visions. So there's a different flavor. There is more complexity in the branches in the Prisma Visions. The flow of energy is different. The season feels different, even though in both of the cards they're in the water. So this is kind of interesting. Last night I did a session with some Tarot Foundation students, and we were looking at the seasonal energy of a deck. And I do have to say that in this particular suit, I really do feel the flavor of summer. Yeah, they're really gorgeous. And then we have the 3, and the dance, the flow of energy. It's kind of gorgeous. It does kind of look like Dancing Girls. I wish it looked more like Human Connection than Dancing Girls. There's something about that that's kind of odd. But what is going on in this particular deck is it's almost like a mirror reflection of the human world and the natural world. And there's peace. There is, for a moment, there is this sense of harmony at all levels. And we see the notion of 3 everywhere. Do you ever have that experience? I did this a walk one time. I was looking for the 2s, and I went into the forest and I saw 2 things growing together. And then I was looking at the larger trees and noticed how the 2 trees came together and went apart, and saw their journey. And anyway, that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of a walk through nature where you're looking for 3. You're looking for the lesson of 3 in nature. But yeah, I can definitely pass on the Dancing Girls. I really like the Cosma Visions 4 of Lotuses. I feel in some way, that I don't like the grumpy nature of the 4 of Cups in certain decks, because this is a time where indeed being alone is a really important part of creating the space. The space itself creates healing. I much prefer a 4 of Chalices, where we see a contentment in being away from others. There's that. So yeah, and I'm not really looking close up at the person's face. I can't really see if they're grumpy, but it's not an entirely relaxed pose, right? It's anyway, it'd be great if they were lying down on the ground. What I like about this card here is the contrast. I don't know what it is. So the water is beginning to get churned up. There is stability in the lotuses. They're kind of moving with the flow. And I think that's what I like. There's not a resistance to the flow of life, which is what I'm feeling. Find a chopstick here, which is what I feel in this particular posture in both of these decks. The more we resist change, the more challenging things become. So I don't know, just an observation. And then things get stirred up. So you'll see the flow of energy drastically gets stirred up in all of these. And I like this. You know what I like about this is that we have to be in this place in order to, I actually really like this card in general, but also love what James has done with this artwork. And that has to do with the being in your stuff, we have to feel it. We have to experience it. We have to be willing to let the boat go. You know, we can't hold on to it. There's so much holding on in the 4 that naturally in the 5, things are going to burst forth. And there's a lot of bursting in this card. And when I look, well, let's look at this one close up. I suppose I could be looking at the, there's a lot, there's different ways that you could see this. I mean, do you see a person leaning over a cliff, letting go of something? Releasing. Are they releasing memories? Are they releasing, I mean, they're releasing the goblets, but what are they, what is in the, I guess that is your story, right? What is in the goblets that are being released? It's kind of powerful. But I like the tumultuousness of this card. It feels highly significant. This card also reminds me of a card in Shadowscapes Tarot. It's not the 5 of Chalices card. Okay, so 6 of water. 6 of water. 6s are connected to peace, beauty, calmness, centeredness. 6 is a card of harmony. So do we see harmony in these cards? Do you feel that sense of harmony? Somewhat, I suppose, right? In the light and Prisma. And in the Cosma Visions, it's almost as if, so let's go back to the 5. And remember that these are, I don't know, triptych is the right word. These are dioramas, right? These are individual stories. The whole minor suit tells a story, but here we see the single lotus surviving the storm. And there's a sense of below, what is below, what is transforming below. And then we have this intense color above. So 6, when I think of 6, I think of divine feminine, divine masculine coming together, right? There's this harmony. And so we have the green, the waters below, and then these bright colors above coming together, surrounding the lotus. And it doesn't feel as peaceful as what I feel in a 6, in the 6s in general. It feels very different. There's a lot of movement of energy that I think you really need to, if you're doing a larger spread with this deck, to really lean into the energy, because it's going to give you clues and cues for how the querent is managing their energy, right? Are they holding on to it? Are they letting go? Are they in the flow? Kind of important questions when you're helping somebody move through something. And then we get to 7. I really like the one on the right. We are in a whole new world. I think that's one of the things he says. It sounds very Disney, a whole new world. Is that Aladdin? I think that's an Aladdin song, Aladdin Disney song. But you know, there's a sense of something that's being recreated. 7s and magic. I'm all over the magic of the 7s. And I just need to look at the big picture here because I'm at a really funny angle. I don't know. I feel sometimes that the 7 of Cups, the artwork just kind of irks me because this is, for me, this is really well done. I'm not so sure that I like these cards. I get what he's doing with this. There is also a transformative energy. If you look at the way the red is moving into the green in the background, it's flowing through the tree. Nothing is still. The snake is a pretty powerful symbol in that card. For me, 7s really tap into a transformation of choice, a choosing to move above and beyond. And I really have come to a different place how I read this card. So I don't know. This feels a bit of a stretch to incorporate Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. Whereas this, to me, is brilliant. So there we go to the card of moving, emotionally moving forth, choosing to leave something behind. Perhaps we have done all that we can do, and then we go off into the mystery. Now, 8 of chalices, I'm going to put it to the side and we'll look at it with the 7 of swords. No, 6 of swords. We'll look at these two side by side. I wish that we could see in the distance. I find one of the powers of this card is to see in the distance, whether it's a mountain or something else. This feels more like a 7 of swords to me, because we can't see where we're going. It's apparent that something is being left behind in all of these cards. But I don't know. There is that energy that is blocking the path. And so we need to be confident enough to know that as we walk through that, we're walking towards something greater. And this feels very, very different. So if I'm reading this 8 of Cups, I feel, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a sadness, it's a heaviness, it's a density of energy. I'm certainly not going to read it like a straight up Rider-Waite Smith. And this, do you know this is it, I'm not sure if this is meant to be a chain. They're leaving the chain behind. They're dropping the chain. It's pretty powerful. And this, so if you are doing past life connections or that sort of thing, ancient worlds, whether Lemuria, Atlantis, civilizations below the sea. I also feel in this card, perhaps this one especially, something that could connect us to more of a traditional meaning for the 6 of Cups. It's important that we don't live in the past. It's important that we move on. We can travel through it in photographs, but we can't dwell there. But this feels like the Titanic, going underneath and discovering the stories of the people through the lost treasures. Yeah. I could look at this card for a long time. I'm sorry, I'm delaying here. I was planning on going much faster. Okay. Contentment. This feels very, very content. And then you can see the Atlantis below here, the lost civilization. And then there's this powerful wave of energy. Is it another dimension? Is it a contrast of above and below? Is it going to divide something in your reading? So what is connected to the right feels awake and alive and moving forward, but what is connected to the left might feel like it's holding on a little bit. So this is a very intriguing card to me. I'm definitely not going to read it as a 9 of Cups. I'm going to tap into the way that the artwork is here, but this 9 of Chalices is really gorgeous. Okay. So what is 10 of Cups? What is 10 of Cups to me? What is 10 of Cups? This is a place of completion where we are, I almost feel like it's quite a poignant, the 10s are quite poignant. We are moving. We can pause here. We can definitely pause here and enjoy it. But there is a sense of moving forward. There is a bit of a melancholy in these cards. And I feel almost as if, um, there's a six, there's again a 6 of Cups kind of energy in this 10 of Chalices. It's like the end of summer when we have to go back to school, and it's like that opening scene in Grease, with Danny and Sandy, and anyway, God bless Olivia Newton-John and her family. You feel that in that 10 of Chalices? It does. It feels like the end of summer, the great summer you had as a young person with your lover, your young boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah. And this one, I feel this is I love this card. It's like, okay, let's party, let's celebrate. And oh my God, what lies ahead is even brighter and better. Exactly, Mary Beth. Hi, Joseph. Welcome to the chat. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at these quartz. Pages. Pages often hold the gift. They hold the gift of the ace. And remember, the Ace of Cups was the fountain, the wellspring. And here is a funny little hat on these pages. But there's something kind of cool that's going on with the energy emanating from the chalice. Yeah, and whether it is, it's totally magical. It's really magical. They are creating something. I feel the pages very, very much connected to the Magician card. They are in their innocence. They're open to playing with something, And the composer, I think, is a brilliant. I want to say it's a little bit of an advanced concept to compare to a page, but it works. It works as the initial court. And please remember that in Cosma Visions, the court cards are considered a completely separate suit, but I'm laying these out so we can compare and contrast what's going on here. Okay. And then we have the poet, who's called the romantic in this deck. And so these all feel congruent. The Knight of Chalices. The Knight of Chalice. It's kind of trippy. This is kind of trippy for me, and it definitely follows on the theme of the previous card. But for sure, this one fits in with a more of a traditional notion of a Knight of Cups. You feel that kind of trippy energy with that Knight? Okay, and then we have our double water energy. So the Queen of Chalices and the Mender. The Mender is the name for the third court in the Cosma Visions. This is, among other things, the healer. She is the water. She is the water. This feels a lot like the description in our last deep dive in the Margaret Peterson Tarot, right? She is the flow of life. She is the water. She is all that moves. Hi, Christina, welcome. Yeah, and oh gosh, okay, I just want to go to that. So please indulge me. I want to read something to you from the Queen of the Mother of Water in the Margaret Peterson, okay? Because this is really interesting. Okay, feathers. There we go. Mother of Water. I was born of the flow in every form. As the rain, I am the mother of fertility. As a river, I create connections and exist everywhere. As the ocean, I am the mother giving birth to life. As a spring, I am mother of origins. As a dewdrop, I am the tears of the night. As a tear, I am the mother of grief. As sweat and urine, I am the one who washes away all toxins. And that is what I see here. She is the water. And this one I feel very deeply connected to the, I almost feel like the water version of light weaving. This is Peacemaker. And then we have the King of Chalices. Okay. So we continue with these quartz, this ability to use water for healing, which is quite different from water quartz in other decks. Okay. And there is a sense of harmony and healing that we're working with in the water suit in the Cosma Visions. So I think it's important to read these decks as the cards are drawn. Okay, now we get into this bird suit, which I have a very hard time with in this deck. I'm okay with the swords. The bird suit is a little odd for me. So we have a frozen bird, and I think it has to do with the ice. And I know that swords for some people is connected to winter, but I don't feel that energy. This also to me does not look like an enormous mountain. And the way that James describes this card, it feels like an enormous mountain to be climbed. I can't find a mountain in that picture. It looks to me like a snowman shaped like a bird. I really like this deck, but this suit, quite frankly, it bugs me. I have a really hard time working with it. So, and then of course we're dealing with a sword that is facing down, that is in the ground, not a sword that is being held high. And if we go ahead to the page, you can see the page is picked the sword up. So the sword starts in the ground. So there's almost a sense of declaring space, declaring position, declaring, I don't know, it feels more like like an ownership thing to me when it's like this. Yeah. Okay. This is a ridiculous card. I'm trying. Okay. I have tried. I have had some amazing readings with this deck. I really struggle with this. So here we have somebody with their singing bowls, which you can't hear because of the storm. And then there's bells here being pulled. One is broken by the person in the foreground. I don't know. I struggle with this. We do have, yeah. This suit in both decks is a little difficult for me. Now, can I see the butterfly here? I don't think, because I don't have the large deck of this one, I don't think without the book I would have seen the butterfly in this card. We also have that, I feel like the bird flavor exists in these decks as well too, the bird masks and so forth. And I have to go to, it makes me think of the plague masks. Yeah. The idea is planted. Yes. And so there is a struggle. This feels like a struggle with the element, or the struggle with the potential of the element. And, you know, this is a card of, to me, it's a card of peace. And so the energy, James's art really, it makes it, it's not an easy read for me. Not an easy read at all. Threes, to me, are about growth, expansion, triangulation, development, coming together. And yes, the Three of Swords is the King of Sorrow, the Lord of Sorrow. I get that. But there is a lot of transformation in this particular card. And I feel like the art is focused on the killing, not the potential for death. So I feel like the strength of these cards would be to come up in a reading with death, so that we had more to speak about. I think it gets better. It gets better as we go on, because I have my repertoire of swords, which are arrows in the Wildwood Tarot. So when we get to the 5, I can speak to that. In the Four of Swords, there is a, what do you want to call it? There's a restoration of sorts. There's a recuperation from the experience of what happens in the Three of Swords. And this particular figure is sitting facing the dead animal that we see in the previous card. Working with this deck, I think it's important to sit with the whole panel, and sit in, not necessarily in meditation, but sit journaling in contemplation for a matter of weeks with the entire panel. And if I were doing a deep dive with you, that's what I would do. We would sit with the panel and study the whole panel as a piece. It's really difficult to work with these cards in isolation because they tell a story. And if you are reading these decks and the querent hasn't seen the entire panel, it could be difficult to speak to that. Okay, so the Four of Birds. This to me is a great, I love that we're seeing an eclipse of sorts in the background. I feel that's an important part of the transformation. Also, now I don't know how you see this, but I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to flip my book. I'm going to show you in the book, because I get a very different energy in the book than I do in this card. So I wonder if I can show you this. Okay. To me, this feels like an abyss. It feels like the side of the cliff, and I don't get that energy, that feeling in that card at all. It looks like perhaps melted snow or something. And what I like about when I'm looking at the book, I'm sort of feeling it's hard to put this in words. It's like the abyss is right there. There's a focus on the ostentatiousness of the material world. Things are changing, things are not as they seem. The abyss is right there. It's like that kind of phrase, you know, or when you're doing mediumship or you're trying to explain all that to somebody, and it's like, heaven is here. It's like there's this veil, this it's difficult to see multiple dimensions at the same time unless you are an enlightened being. And this feels like that. Like it's a contrast between the veil of the third dimension and the vast potential of the cosmos. Even though this is not the cosmos, this is the cosmos, I guess, is up here. I don't know, I'm rambling, but the strength of the miners is in studying the whole piece and understanding the whole piece. Five of birds. Five of birds is noisy. Five of birds works. Okay, so that no problem with that card at all. And again, so in the swords, we have these funny masks again. Christina, it is. So this is an important thing. The Cosma Visions is touted as an oracle deck. It is an oracle deck, but it does have a lot of crossover with tarot. And the way that James Eads has written the Big Visions book, he endeavors to bring this crossover with the tarot. So it's entirely up to you, and all I'm doing here is just bringing in some of my thoughts on this crossover. Okay, but yes, it is sold as an oracle deck. And I find it very interesting that we have the same masks appear in the swords as we see in the bird's suit. Sorry, I said I was going to leave out the Eight of Cups and I didn't. So let's really interesting perspective in this Six of Swords, because we see the bridge and going from one side to the other rather than moving from the foreground to the distance that we see in a lot of Six of Swords. This particular Six of Birds, again, is about transition. But I feel, again, we're tapping into the energy of death. We're tapping into a place of trust, a willingness to let go and let God. One of the planes in the picture is crashing. And so it's quite a challenging card to work with. The description, well, I don't need to read it. It's pretty obvious, right? There's a dog fight that's going on. And to me, this feels particularly disconnected from the energy of six. Yes, it is definitely a hybrid. Welcome. Welcome to my heart's journey. Okay, let's go on. Seven of Swords. What are you feeling here? Truth, voice. It's really interesting how he has those five, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's actually 8 swords in this card, which is really interesting. There are 5 swords standing up and 3 swords in hand. Looks like 2 here. I guess it depends on the version of the deck you have. It doesn't really matter. So there's a gate, there's a fence, and fences are really interesting in the tarot. What fences create, and there definitely is a sense of stealing away. I almost feel there's a sense of madness in this card as well too. Hi, Nancy. This is very interesting. We have a tremendously powerful card here. I feel the power of the mountains, the power of the sky, and the strength, if you will, of the power of the formation that the birds fly in to move through any kind of weather. It feels like a power card. Not my favorite card in the deck. Okay, so the fence. The fence continues in the picture. And so now we see in the 8 a different figure sitting behind the fence of swords. So this fits in very well with the RWS kind of imagery. And this same kind of thing below is when I'm looking at the book, I feel this abyss energy. I feel the abyss, this above and below cosmic energy, and then kind of sitting in this place, perhaps a place of transition, meditation, contemplation in between the above and below. And then we have another symbol of power, right? Nature's power, the force of nature influencing. The 8 of Birds. I'll read you one thing from this one. It's actually a really easy book to reference, to go back and forth between the 2 decks. You just flip the book upside down. The wind has picked up with increasing speed and has formed into a gargantuan tornado. The flock of birds has disbanded, each now trying to survive the event. Yet the tornado starts to pull everything around it inwards, leaving little chance for escape. Brace yourself from the impending windy obstacle. So there's a sense of destruction, nature's power. Okay, so perhaps power may be a theme that the querent is working with, and we see lots of with the drawing of energy in this deck, we see the power, the force of nature throughout many of the cards. And so I would try to connect the tornado to the force of other aspects of nature. This reminds me of a Wildwood card. This is the one I was talking about. So there's a recklessness here. There's no aim. There's no focus. Absolutely no focus. And that, of course, is the medicine. The medicine is in finding focus. So there's a scattered energy here. And then we have can I say, a typical nightmare card. Okay. Ten of Swords. Does it feel almost like, I don't know, the way the swords are arranged, that shape of the wheel, there's something that's going on there. And the way that the vultures are, I don't know if they're vultures, are in a circle around the carcass. I think there's a symbol there that you can work with. The tens, of course, being the wheel, the completion. And the thing I do like about the Ten of Swords cards is there is it feels like a surrender. It feels like a surrender to nature, a surrender to a bigger power. The human is little, the bird is huge. Ten of Birds, there's a choice. You kind of arrive late to the party and there's no meat left on the carcass. What does that say? Well, I guess it depends what's going on in the reading, right? Really interesting interpretation of the Ten of Birds. Oh, Christina, it takes way more than 6 years. Yeah, it does. It takes a long time to get tarot down. And especially if you're working with a deck that takes things in such a different direction, like the 3 decks that we're looking at right now. All right, this is the Weaver. Now, despite the whole mask, the bird mask thing, I really do like the titles of the court cards in this suit. Weaver is such a great title. The Weaver of Knowledge, the Weaver of Wisdom, right? There's and for all of the pages, and I know they're not pages in the Cosma Visions, there's a much more developed sense. You know, they're doing something with the energy. So I quite like those chords, even though, you know, I can't really contrast it with anything. I think the Page of Swords is it's a great illustration. The air, the slayer of air, the slayer of words, the slayer of truth. Reminds me of some of the Alice tarots, where Alice is slaying the Jabberwocky in that particular card. Okay. And then we have the Knight of Swords. And so those work. Those work. And wouldn't it be interesting, of course, to have a reading where you had the Nine of Swords and the Knight of Swords in a reading, right? Because we see a very different perspective here, or a different. The Knight is taking action. The fighter, to me, doesn't feel like he's fighting. And again, I think I might change that to, what are the other ones called? I really want to have the Light Weaver. He feels like a martial artist who's more about connecting to energy. So this title to me doesn't really fit. Martial arts is about moving energy. And if I look at the image, that's what I see. So I really prefer to disregard the title. Okay. And then we have Queen. And this is Dreamer. Tarot of the She. Tarot of the She, the suit of air is called Dreamers. So this is the suit of mind. Now, the Queen has put a some kind of a restraint around the beak of the bird. So she is taming. She's taming the bird. This feels a little bit like Pamela Coleman Smith's Nine of Pentacles, where we see the tamed bird. Is she taming another? Is she taming herself? What does it mean to tame or to control? It's a funny card. It really is a funny card. And again, we have this whole, so where in the water suit, the quartz were weaving water, now we see this weaving of air. For sure, it could be strength. And it feels like a very old Tarot de Marseille, which is power over, rather than surrendering to the power within, or finding peace with the power within. Finding peace with the power within. This is the final card we're going to look at today. Okay, so here we are with the King of Swords. The king is with in the nest with the young birds. And there is an abundance of butterflies, butterflies symbolizing transformation. So air, thoughts. Through the process of the suit, the king is the one who is transformed. Can we say that? Through this experience. And then the king of air is the elementalist. And we have looks to me like a ballerina, but that continued theme of weaving energy. And that works really well. I kind of like that the quartz are working with the energy of the suit for the most part in the Cosma Visions. Okay. So when I started this, I had no intention of going on for weeks on end with these 3 decks, but I have a couple more ideas of what I would like to do. So next Wednesday, we will do the same for the suit of Pentacles and the suit of Trees. And then perhaps what we can do is look at the complete story of the minors, because that would be a nice way to wind this up. So I will see you in a week's time. Take good care of yourselves, and I may see some of you in a few minutes in the Facebook group. And if you're not a member of the Facebook group, the link is in the description box below. Take good care. Namaste, everybody. Bye for now.